Well, my name is Keith. I'm living in Freeport, Illinois right now. I'm from the Chicago area, but I'm living in Freeport. It's a small, mostly blue-collar city west of Rockford, and I am U6. I am one of the uncounted unemployed, not part of the official rate. And for me, it's very important to use the time I have to go to Washington and be part of this message. You know, for me, this is like being part of our generation's bonus army, if you remember that from after World War I. And you know, if Glenn Beck can get 75,000 people into Washington to just say that they don't like things, then frankly, I think we ought to be able to get at least twice that many into Washington and say, you know, the majority of us like most things, but one thing we don't like is being unemployed, and another thing we don't like is the inequality that's really eating away at the foundations of this country. And so I'm out there to be counted. I'm representing for a good 30 of my friends who are not able to go. I'm actually able to go on this trip thanks to the generosity of a sponsor who also supports this and paid for my bus ticket. So, you know, I'm there one head, but behind me there are lots of other people who are also there in spirit.
What do you hope your message individually will count for?
Well, I'm a fairly, I think, reasonably educated and articulate person. I came from a comfortable upbringing. I have an advanced degree, and I have been hit by this economy just as hard as a construction worker, a factory worker, a skilled laborer, anybody who's out there, and finding that this economy just doesn't really support anybody except people who work in this fantasy economy of finance, insurance, and real estate, which is really the only thing that our country is doing right now in order to generate wealth. And that's not generating real wealth. That's not a basic industry. That's not creating anything or adding value to anything. That's just, you know, that's just like whipping up egg whites into a meringue. It looks bigger, but you're not actually adding anything.
What industry was it you were employed before you got laid off?
Well, I originally was in the editing field, which has contracted very badly in the last couple of decades. And then I went back to school and got an advanced degree in education. And now with the budget troubles in Illinois, it's, you know, teachers are being laid off, and it's hard for a teacher who doesn't have a job to get a job, you know. And it's hard for a teacher who has a job to keep a job. It's hard on everybody right now. And, you know, and one thing that I find absolutely incredible, people are going out there saying they're taxed enough already. If you look at the actual income tax rate in Illinois, we're one of 7 states with a flat income tax. And of those 7, we have the lowest rate. So when people go on television and say, oh, Pat Quinn is proposing raising our taxes 33% or 67%, well, yeah, mathematically that's true. That's what you get when you go from 3% to 4% or 3% to 5% of gross income. I mean, really, we're not taxed enough already, and we're unfortunately constitutionally required to have a flat tax in this state, which is really incredible when you consider the gulf between, say, somebody who lives on the south side or the west side of Chicago, or out in Stephenson County or in other rural parts of the state, and somebody who lives on the North Shore, DuPage County, which are some of the richest communities in the nation.
Maybe this time.
All right. Yeah. So, yes, I do believe the teachers are professionals, and I think that it's very damaging to the education field to treat teachers as if we're not professionals, because we're knowledge workers. Okay, I think that's basically the definition for professionals. Somebody who primarily works not with a manual skill or with particular tools or anything like that, but your mind is your tool. Your mind is your primary tool, and the body of knowledge that you have And that knowledge is gained by research, and a tremendous amount of what's going on in education right now simply is not research-based. And in fact, if you listen to Diane Ravitch, if you listen to Linda Darling-Hammond, or if you listen to any of these people, what they're crying out right now is that the research does not support charter schools as a panacea. It doesn't support this testing regime we have. It doesn't support the idea of value-added merit pay. In fact, recently, I don't know if you heard, but there was a tragic story about a teacher in Los Angeles who was humiliated by the ratings in the LA Times and committed suicide. I believe he threw himself off a bridge. Teachers are very invested in what they do. And one of the reasons merit pay has been shown in a recent study in Nashville not to work is the teachers are already giving it their all for the little that they're making now. They can't do any more than they're doing.
So you hope to meet other teachers and educators on the trip?
That'd be nice. I'm happy to meet anyone who's there. But to finish my thought, what we really are not acknowledging is that there's not just one education system in this country. It's not even that there's one public education system in this country. All kinds of different communities have different kinds of education systems. I grew up in Evanston, and the education there runs the gamut from pretty good to superior. There is no education crisis in Evanston except for the achievement gap between affluent students and students living in poverty. And if you look across the country, that is the real crisis that we're having. It's not a crisis in America's schools. It's a crisis in the schools that serve the poor in America. Because if you look at the schools that serve affluent communities, they rank with the best in the world. They rank with Finland. They rank with the Netherlands. They rank with Japan and Singapore. If you look at the schools that serve communities in poverty, and if you just look at test scores, what you see looks like the education system of a third world country. Does that mean that the teachers are incompetent? No. It means that kids come to school with so much load on their psyches and on their bodies even, with malnutrition, with stress, sometimes with physical violence, that they simply do not show up to school prepared to learn the way a kid who grows up in comfortable circumstances is prepared to learn. It's not that they have less potential. They have equal potential, but the stresses in their lives hold them back from achieving that potential. There have been some excellent articles on this lately in Rethinking Schools, in The Atlantic, in The New Yorker. I mean, they're popping up everywhere if you choose to look for them. Economists are saying this. Psychologists are saying this. Jeffrey Canada is even saying this. Now he's got this Superman thing going on where he thinks that just by sheer force of will you can take 6th, 7th, 8th graders who've grown up in this kind of poverty and make them achievers in a span of months. And what he has found, whether he talks about it or not, what he has found is that you can't do that. He's doing an excellent job with the kids who are growing up in his Harlem Children's Zone program and who are getting the nourishment and the literacy and the better parenting and the constant concerned intervention that system is providing. But that takes a kind of investment of money, of time, of personnel, and of emotion that you just don't see in most communities of poverty in this country. And, you can either sink that kind of effort and money and heart into every poor community in the nation, which, frankly, we are not capable of doing and we're not equipped to do and we're certainly not eager to do. Or you can address the systemic inequality in our society. You can create jobs for people who are currently on welfare to work in. You can't complain about people collecting welfare and at the same time have a system that destroys the jobs they could be working in. That's putting people in an unsustainable situation. It's expecting the impossible.
Well, thank you so very much for spending time with us here.
Thank you. You're welcome.